Let's go. Good evening, guys. Welcome everyone for this podcast, but just a webinar. Nowadays, people use the podcast term everywhere. Now, we are a group of healthcare professionals. We have started around three foundations, which is Oneness Education Foundation, Oneness Community Foundation, and also Oneness Research Foundation. I am Dr. Syed from India. We have started this to just guide healthcare professional for them to land in their licensing field. And where everyone talks about the mental health, people generally don't address about what we go through. Immigrants and also international students, and we really go through a lot of struggle for sure compared to any other minorities or communities in Canada. So with that background, I would just hand over to our health mental health specialist, Mahana Muhammad, for introduction. Over, Mahana.
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. My name is Mahnam. I'll just give you a bit of a background on Mental Health Week here in Canada. It was introduced by Canadian Mental Health Association in 1951 to raise awareness for mental health and the stigma and the shame that was surrounding mental health around that time in the 1950s. And it was manifesting in different ways. For example, a discrimination, denial of employment, and limited housing options. But the stigma, it can also be addressed differently across cultures. So, for example, I'm from Pakistan, and as I grew up, it was the way that it was manifesting is no one spoke about mental health. So that's how the experience that I have with mental health and the stigma and the shame that's surrounding it. And that's the importance that I see with Mental Health Week. And is this important for all newcomers to be introduced to such experiences? And Mental Health Week is just one of those. So this year is actually the 72nd Mental Health Week from May 1st to May 7th, and it aims to show practical methods for enhancing and preserving mental health and mental well-being for students and for anyone else here in Canada. And the ways that are helpful and available for all to support recovery from mental illness or just offer support. And it actually has yearly themes. So, for example, last year for 2022, the theme for Mental Health Week was empathy. And this year for 2023, the theme for Mental Health Week for CMHA was hashtag. I'm sorry, can you hear me? I'm sorry, I thought it cut off. Yeah. Sorry, the theme for 2023 was hashtag my story. So you can share your personal story on CMHA, the website, to have a sense of community and connection and support, building connections through sharing your stories. So for example, if I'm sitting here in Ontario, I can share my mental health story, and someone sitting there in Nova Scotia or Vancouver can read that story and build a connection through me, with me, just reading my story and building a connection through that, and just reducing the stigma to this method of sharing. And sharing just may help someone realize that they aren't alone in what they're going through. And on the CMHA website, there's stories from caregivers, there's stories from mental health professionals. For example, their challenges, their successes, their stories from donors and from people who are going through difficult times. So just as I said, sharing these stories, it helps reduce the stigma, and that still may exist as it did in the 1950s, although it might not be as obvious and as blatant as it was before. And as when the initiative was taken. So the CMHA thus introduced the initiative. And CMHA mental health resources, they are very helpful, although they may be a bit generalized and not specified for immigrants and international students. So the upcoming speaker will address more about statistics and mental health resources available more for immigrants and international students. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And I withholded the introduction for Mahana. I just wanted people to join, and it's my pleasure to introduce. She's a recent psychology graduate and also mental health associate for Oneness Community Foundation. She has a passionate about opening the floor for discussion about mental health and also its awareness in Canada. She just moved before 3 years to Canada, and she understands the trouble and struggles what immigrants they go through, and including international students also. She beautifully addressed about Mental Health Week. Thank you so much, Mehnam. Now, as she said, we'll move forward to the second topic that will be addressed by Dr. Glancy. She is an international student studying healthcare leadership, and her identification is as an international trained pharmacist. She has experience in clinical research coordinator, and she is now pursuing to clear her PEBC exam to reduce the healthcare burden in Canada. And this clearly shows that we are here, immigrants, we are here to support just not the economy alone, even the healthcare system also. She's already working in as a head pharmacy assistant. That's something that I'm proud of saying that just as a student, she's already leading group of pharmacy assistant. She's a great human being and awesome mother for a daughter, and she is doing her best to thrive and be positive in this world. And she will talk about a current status of mental health among immigrants. Over to you, Glancy.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I will be taking through a study regarding the mental health awareness, what is important factors which is mainly focused on the mental health week. So first, before starting, I just need to go through the statistics of the immigrants. So we can see in the past, like 2021, there has been like a phenomenal increase in the number of immigrants and refugees in Canada. To be exact, it has reached like 23%, that is one quarter of Canadian population, like 8.3 million people, immigrants, have reached Canada in 2021. And it is supposed to be increased in the coming years. And immigration is like a key for the Canadian economic growth into the future. So more the immigrants, there will be more challenges for the settlement. So hence a better understanding of newcomers, mental health outcomes, and the use of the services becomes important for the policymakers and service providers. So there has been a study which is based on a health survey which is linked to the longitudinal immigration database, which clearly demonstrated that immigrants have like less likely to have the level of self-reporting mental health, that is SRMH, than Canadian-born respondents. So there are only like a few studies who have examined like the SRMH level and the use of the services among immigrants. So I will be going through one of the study, which is like a multi-province study conducted by Edward and Zhang, which focused on both these factors, which provides more insight on this topic. So they conducted like a cohort study, which compared Canadian-born individuals and immigrants. And the first factor they took was socio-economic factors. So it was very clear that Canadian-born population had a well knowledge of two languages, English and French, and immigrants were only proficient in English. Also, most Canadian bonds were having good education, experience, and were under high-paid jobs, whereas immigrants were not satisfied with their jobs or personal status in Canada. Secondly, immigrants were like less likely to report mental health consultations compared to Canadian bonds, regardless of their age, sex, education, income, and employment. And according to a recent statistics, immigrants with high levels of SRMH were less likely to consult mental health professionals than the reference group. So regardless of their like the self-reporting mental health levels, had much lower odds of reporting to mental health consultation than Canadian bonds with low levels of SRMH. And in this study, they found that there is a differential magnitude of like a mental health consultation by immigrant status. It may be due to various obstacles. One may be difficulty in transportation for the consultation or in obtaining a permission, like to seek treatment during work hours, or cultural obstacles, which might include lack of linguistically and culturally appropriate mental health services or other barriers encountered when seeking like mental health services. So one of the barrier which can be a fear of stigma, which already Manam discussed in the introduction, like she explained with an example, like in her own country, she faced that fear of stigma. So it's like the fear of stigma, which can act as a barrier for mental health consultation. So for those who have like poor mental health, the mental health consultation could focus on the management of mental illness and also their symptoms. And for individuals who have high level of self-reporting mental health, a mental health consultation could be used for health maintenance and improvement and also for disease prevention. And finally, to conclude, so this study has provided a clear evidence in the difference of mental health consultation between Canadian-born and immigrant by self-reporting mental health level. And the low MHC levels among immigrants suggest that there should be like more support and services which should be required for the immigrant subgroups. And thank you. I would like to end with this quote written by Germany Kent. Be dedicated to change the way in which people see mental illness at all levels of society. If not for yourself, advocate for those who are struggling in silence. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Glancy. Briefly, you have elaborated about the statistic and also about the study. The whole purpose of we taking the study from Statistic Canada is to address that these are the critical sources what we are using. Certainly, this is we have to focus on addressing this stigma, and the further study will enlighten more on. Thank you so much, Clancy. Now, for our next speaker, I'm really glad she is joining here, Ms. Krisale, immigrant, young care professional, and a researcher who arrived just a couple of years ago in Canada with her family. She studies mental health for immigration and they face when it comes to use of mental health service in high income countries like Canada. She is also working on a systemic review analysis on this topic, and this work will be really useful for policy development. So the recent study, she is the only one who author here to discuss on the barriers. Over to you, Crystal. Thank you for being here.
Hi, is it me? Hello?
You are just humble. Yes, yes.
Yeah, because
Yes.
when you were talking, I had like some issue with the connection. So sorry, I didn't understand properly what you said. And so thank you for having me here. And thank you, Manam, and also Glancy. Glancy, I highlight very well like what I plan to say in my intervention today, because as Said mentioned, I did a systematic scoping review on mental health of immigrant students and their use of mental health services in high-income countries. And hopefully this study will be published maybe next week, finger crossed. So the objective of my study was to provide, as I mentioned, a systematic map of research on immigrant students' mental health and identify existing gap in what is known about the barriers and facilitator associated with access and the use of mental health service among immigrant students. I know it is a very long objective. As Glancy mentioned, we have like an increased number of international students over the world, and the top 5 host countries were United States, the first one, and followed by UK, Australia, Germany, and also Canada. Canada hosts like a lot of international students. And we also know that most of these students come from China, India, Vietnam, Germany, and United States. We noticed that when and this is for all immigrant, all categories of immigrant. When they arrive in their host country, they generally have a good health, including their mental health. And after their arrival, we notice a decline of their health status, including their mental health. And this is very obvious among international students and immigrants, because they face like a lot of additional challenges to what the other immigrants face. Because we know that in high income countries, they usually have like a lot of programs for immigrants, but some of these programs do not include international students, and they have to find a way to overcome all their problems and challenges. So few challenges they encounter are lack of social support, unemployment, because depending of your status, you cannot work a certain amount of time in your host country. Also, the cost of their studies. We know that international students, they pay almost 3 times what the Canadian or native pay. This is a huge burden on their shoulder. The adaptation to a new culture, the difference between the educational system, and also barriers in their languages if they don't speak well English or French, for example, in Canada. So this leads to some problems, the psychological issue. The two main problems, psychological problems, are depression and anxiety. We also notice that they have problems as social-cultural stress, as you mentioned, Glency. So this is acculturation. They have to learn a new culture, and sometimes we ask them to not to put their first culture back in order to integrate themselves to a new culture. They also have language issue, which can cause like a lot of stress in the everyday lives. Personal and relationship issue, educational challenges, and additional, we have discriminations, racism, stigma, and also some practical challenges as cost, finance, and also time. So a few barriers, you highlight some of the barriers on my list, but I will maybe focus on facilitator, because I don't want to repeat what you said, but I agree that I categorize barriers in 5 categories. We have attitudinal barriers as stigma. You mentioned this is the first barriers that prevent international students to use mental health services. We also have the doubt and the fear. I also found that being a man was a barrier, a huge barrier, especially in Asian side, because most of the students in the participant students in the studies included in this review were from China, India, and we know that this population, they have a high number of immigrants outside their country, so it is not how we say that, it is not oh God. Anyway, so we also noticed that lot of students, they have lack of trust in the professional and the system itself. And this happened even with broad, like the other categories of immigrant. So because they don't find that it is useful, sometimes their problems are financial, and financial cause like this stress, and and they don't think that a mental health professional can help them with this, like, because they know their problem and they know that it is not psychological, but the fact that it affects their mental, so it is very difficult. The other barriers was knowledge. A lot of them, they don't have information. I know a lot of university, they are improving in this, like in this side. They do like this orientation week and give like all this information to international students. They also have what they call buddy program, which is a great program to have like a native student helping like a new international student. We also have example of barriers, cultural barriers, as being a Western student, or having an Asian cultural barrier. We know that some cultures have like a greater stigma on mental health, like saying that. And I know even where I'm coming from in Africa, when you speak about like meeting a psychologist, and you are taking as a fool because it is not in our culture. And I know that it is the same in Asian too. So all these kind of perceive like perceiving the need of using service can just stop these students to receive these services. We also have lack of cultural appropriate services, as you mentioned. And additional to that, we have like cost, the time, and also not having a previous contact, and also some of doubt on the confidentiality, because some students, they think that their story will be out, so that prevent them to use the services. For facilitator, we have like confidence. If they have confidence in professional and the system, and they are open-minded, minded, and also have a high tolerance, they are they will use the services. Also about knowledge, having a good literacy and knowledge about mental health issue can push them to use easily mental health services. And we also have highly acculturation. So those who are acculturate will use services easily than those who are not. Also having previous contact, as I mentioned, and be sure that all what they said will be confidential, will push them to use the services. I think that's all for me. I know that after this, I will, at 30, I will just, like, I will leave the meeting, but I'm glad to being here. And excuse me if, because English is not my first language.
You're doing great.
Okay. So if you have any question and I'm not in the meeting anymore, please feel free to contact me via my LinkedIn, and I will be glad to have a discussion with you. Thank you so much.
For sure, Krista. Thank you so much, Krista. Just before you leaving, I just want to say that this is not the single day event we are working on. we want to end up having a proper policy development. As you said, that it's not the individual behavior is going to change it. We have to have a policy as such. So we will look forward to working with you in the
Yeah.
research aspect. I will connect with you. Thank you so much, Crystal.
Yeah, thank you
Yes.
so much. It was very short notice, but I'm glad to make it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Yep. And next, here we have Mr. Rakesh. He is a professor in Sheridan College in Faculty of Applied Health and Community Studies, and he is also a program manager for mental health program at CultureLink. CultureLink is a settlement organization that develop and delivers settlement service to meet the need of a diverse community. So he is in flesh, whatever we are discussing, he plays a major part in enlightening the immigrants and also working for them. He recently received the certificate for immigrant and refugee mental health for health service providers offered by University and also CAMH, which is Center for Addiction and Mental Health. This is the only project, only foundation where they are doing the funding from the federal government, and they are providing the services for immigrants as such. And Mr. Rakesh has completed the certificate on that also, and he's been doing this for a good amount of years. Over to you, sir. If you can let us know that what are the services available for us to make use of it. Thank you.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, Hussein, for inviting me. And I just wanted to share my full disclaimer that right now I'm sitting in Tim Hortons parking lot and attending the meeting. This is how the technology has moved us from COVID. And I'm able to do this just before meeting my friends. After speaking to you, I'd be going meeting my friends. And Hussein asked me that if I can join it for even short while. So thank you for being with all of you. Before getting into services, I would like to still share one anecdotal discussion about mental health and Mental Health Week. When I talk to my students in most recent class also, when I asked about mental health, I asked them point blank, if you feel that you have mental health issue, how many of you can share that with your mother, with your brother, with your friends? Class was silence. Nobody was feeling confident. They can talk about this, that if I get hurt, if my bones are broken, they can tell anybody happily that my hand bone is broken. But if they are having issues related to stress, anxiety, trauma, or anything, they're finding it very difficult to share that someone who is very close to their heart, their family even. Some of the people in my workforce who said that this is such a sensitive issue, even people who advocate for that, they are advocate of mental health and they fully support their colleagues, their supervisees and things. When it comes to sharing that intimate detail that you are my boss, like someone shared his going through anxiety and stress and asking for a stress leave for a few weeks, the CEO said, yes, okay, I'm very supportive of mental health, take the stress leave. But then he happily shared that with the board also, that my next in command is taking a stress leave. If he's not able to take this stress at this level, if he goes up, he would not be able to manage that. So see, the situation is like, even if you are a supporter, advocate, talking about mental health, but things can change at any moment, and things which are positive can turn into negative. And these are the anecdotal things I just wanted to share, that how difficult it is. I can go to a pharmacy and ask for cold remedy, but I cannot go to a pharmacy and say things like what is there. So when we are offering mental health services at CultureLink for intensive counseling or counseling, it's difficult for people coming from the war-torn countries also, who are facing trauma, who are facing PTSD, on regular basis to be able to come openly and ask for the services that I want counseling, I want clinical counseling, I want a psychotherapy, I want a psychotherapy services because I'm not able to sleep, or this is traumatic experiences is letting me disturb my life. So we run different kinds of programs, like we run art therapy, we do yoga and meditation sessions, things, relaxation therapy, things, how you can organize your life, your calendar, your living space, different kind of things which are more into wellness rather than going into terming it like we are offering intense mental health services or counseling and psychotherapy. We are telling in a softer way to come. And once you build a relationship, once you build a trust with the people where you're working with, then maybe you can ask for getting the counseling and getting the psychotherapy, or being referred to CAMH, or being referred to any other psychiatric facility, depending on what needs you have. So we may be able to do the referral services. So in terms of services, it's not just the CAMH or big hospitals with the mental health department or psychiatrists who are available into the system. It's their community health centers, agencies like nonprofits like Culture Link are there to be able to help you to start getting in. So if things are disturbing people, they can go if that is the thing. It's a still such a issue and a stigma attached that it's difficult to openly come out and seek the help. So I hope uh, when we are talking about mental health and initiatives like corporates like Bell coming out and saying mental health day and let's talk, and these things are coming up, I hope sooner people will feel less stigma to talk about it and get the services they need and get the help they can get to organizations like Culture Link or other CAMH or any health facility where they can get to speak to even a doctor to get a referral for a psychiatrist or psychotherapist. So this is just a few minutes I wanted to share, and thank you to all of you who were able to come and talk about mental health in such an important topic and such a sensitive topic, which is difficult to talk and do things about it. More than looking into DSM, many of you are medical, like Hussein, talking more into DSM terms, but in social terms, in talk into public. So that can be different, and hopefully things will change for better sooner. So that's about it. Thank you, Hussein, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. We'll continue to do this kind of event, and you can guide us on how to approach and how to reach out to CAMH and to bring this services across Canada, not just in NG, so that we have our brothers and sisters across Canada. They'll be able to do the services, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Hussein. Bye for now. Bye, everybody.
Yes. Before inviting Michelle, we have just a two personal story to be shared as such. We'll just take 2 minutes, okay? Because the complete theme is about my story. Before me handing over to my brothers and sister, I would start by saying from my learned, because I'm introvert and I have that aura to just connect with everyone and be positive about it. Even though when I feel depressed about at some times, that still I would be like, if I am sad about it, then what happens to my friends and colleagues? I tend to be an overachiever. So I tried calling to a couple of services, not for the suicide. If you go to the subway, there they mentioned that if you feel a suicide intention, call us. But there are other services across Canada. They're doing for 24/7, like wellness together. So I'm going to continue to post about this. It's pretty simple. I spoke to them. I asked them that if someone from an Indian background or a Philippines background, if they want to talk, do we have someone with a similar cultural background to have the connection? So these organizations like Wellness Together and also Kids for Support, there are three organizations. They have a culturally competent employee. Once you call them, they will ask about your details and they will get back to you with the right employee so that you can have the connect with them. And that's my story. Now I would invite Barinder just to share couple of for a couple of seconds about what he's going through or he gone through in the past. Over to you, Barinder.
Hello everyone, am I audible? Yeah. So I would like to share the story I've arrived in Canada in past last September. So when I reached here, at first the finding a work was very difficult. So I was like, I am a bachelor's of pharmacist. I have done my graduation in that, and I have experience in sales also for 4 years, and I have worked with GlaxoSmithKline and some other Indian reputed company as well. When I came here with the ambition that I would do good in healthcare field. I would get a job there, or maybe something I would do there. But sadly, I was like applying in different types of uh, uh, at Shoppers, Drug Mart, and all the places like in the sales department. I've tried so much, but sadly, I wasn't able to get any job. So, in order to I have to pursue my study here as well as I'm a full-time student. So I have to see all the things, how to pay my fee, how to pay the expenses, how to pay the rent. So I was so much trouble at that time, and I have to opt an odd job. So I started working there. Yeah, I remember that I have to wake up at 4:45 a.m. in the morning and reach my at my work at 7 a.m. and I got free at 3 p.m. and then I have college also. The schedule was so tight. From 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the evening, I have to attend my college, and after coming back at 11:30 p.m., we still have to make dinner. And yeah, all these things stress me up. And yeah, every day I was sleeping at 1 a.m. or 1:30 a.m. and still the next day we have to wake up at the same time, 4:40, 4:45. Yeah, 4 hours of sleep, sometimes 3 hours of sleep. I've done work like that for 2 months. Yeah, it stressed me up really. So eventually, like in the beginning, I was like fired up because I wanted to do something. I wanted to earn money. Yeah, somehow I wasn't able to do work in my field, but still I wanted to do something. As I have all our parents have ambition from us. Yeah, there are things that want us to do work, but little by little I started feeling stressed, and it affect my mental health also. And yeah, after 2 months of that, I was like tired of doing anything. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to apply anywhere. I didn't want to do anything. And I slowly saw that even my grades are dropping in the studies, and every time I was sleepy. So yeah, that thing stressed me up uh, very much. So after that, yeah, I started to share things with my friends. I was at first I wasn't able to share these things with my family as I didn't want to stress them up. But yeah, I started to share these things, and eventually I started to little by little I do some things and manage my schedule. So somehow I I'm doing well now, but still I want to do work in my own field, which I wasn't able to get now. So, I want to say that the government should create some policies for the healthcare students, new immigrants. They are suffering very much. Yeah, all my friends are here are from healthcare background, but none of them got a healthcare job. That's what pinches me and my friends also. So I wanted to just share that the government should do something, and with the support of everyone, we can make it happen. Yeah. So this is my story, and yeah, I really wanted to share that. And thank you, Mr. Sayed, for letting me a chance to share myself. Thank you so much.
When I clapped, I didn't clap that you slept only for 3 hours. I clapped that with all those 3 hours what you did, but still you were one of the best students who are always attentive and focused according to as such what I see also. So good job on that. And now because of time restriction, We'll just have just 30 more second or 1 minute from Bhavana. She is right now at the place, so she joined just for us. Such Bhavana, if you could just join and address for a minute. Thank you, Gurinder.
Hello everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Syed sir. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Syed sir, who has been our instructor and mentor to provide me this opportunity for taking part in this mental health week and event. I'd like to start with a quote by Matt Haig. Mental health problems don't define who you are. They are something you experience. You walk in the rain and you feel the rain, but you're not the rain. This quote has been a resemblance of what I had to teach myself to stay strong. As an international student recently moving into the country, I had few friends to turn into in times of need, in terms of work, study, and to hang out with too. When things got tough, I had to hold on to myself to motivate and to get out of my comfort zone, to make friends, to create a circle of my own. At first, I was very hesitant to connect with others as I'm scared of rejection, scared of being a social pariah. But it has been a very pleasant surprise to notice that there are people who felt like me. That there were people who have been feeling the same things that I have been feeling as well. So, as Glancy have said, that this is a percentage of the people who has been feeling the same thing when they move countries. So, I think that part of that part of the situation has connected us to make friends, to get out of a comfort zone, to accept each others for what they are, and to create a circle despite of being coming from various backgrounds. So, in such a time of need, I would say that even though we are feeling down, there is always this silver lining to the story, that there are other people who feel the same as us, and who we can depend on. If only we reach out to them, we can also make good friends, and we can also make family. We can also make long lasting bonds as well. So instead of feeling down, we can always look up and come up, which I have been doing on my own. So since there is a time restriction, I would like to just stop it till here. I wouldn't like to take
Yes,
much
thank you.
time. Yeah, thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Bhavana, for sharing that. And you have overcome this mental health struggle as such, just like me. Just like we all go through this, we just don't address that very much. That's all. Thank you, Bhavana. Now, because we have just 15 more minutes, I would start with I requested my friend Michelle to just take her talk at the end with me as such. So we'll go ahead with next. He had a dream to make it big, not only for himself and also for others too. He's one of the. He has a community of people over 200,000 people across Canada, across world as such. What I like about him is his consistency. You know him for at least 3-4 years. Is always there. He always being transparent about his struggle, which in turn motivate others also. Over to you, Akshat. I just have a couple of questions. So if we can have a such discussion would be great.
Thank you, Sayed, for introducing me. It was such a wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I would love to answer all those questions. And first of all, I wanted to tell you that this is a very important topic when it comes to immigrants. And I am very happy to see that this thing is getting in limelight, as you know, a lot of people are moving to Canada. And with that, a lot of stress comes away as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be a part of this conversation, and so far everybody has highlighted the issue very well. So yeah, Said, go ahead with your questions.
Sure. First thing would be, have you ever felt really low as such? What was your lowest point and how did you cope up?
Um, mm, in my opinion, say whoever is an immigrant when he comes, everyone is very happy and joyful, and for first 2-3 months, it's just like a new journey, new world, new life. But after 2-3 months, when the dust starts settling in, you kind of see that there are a lot of things that you'll have to do by your own, right? So there was a time when I came, I had a habit of staying away from my parents, either for travel, or I used to travel a lot when I was in India as well. So I thought everything might just go very very plain, and I won't be having too much of a homesickness kind of phase. But after 2 3 months, a time comes when you can't find a job, when you are in your first semester, and the mid sems coming in, your final exams are coming in, so you kind of feel stressed. So that was the point when it was my first semester, and I found my job after 4 months. So it was the third month when I was a little stressed. So that was a point I was like, why did I come to Canada? I had a great life in India. And I think everybody feels the same when it comes to, people who come right after 12th standard. Because I have seen almost 50 to 60% of people who come to Canada for studies, they come after 12th. And at that very age, we haven't faced much of life, as to say, and that's when things started coming to us, and it just feels overwhelming. But yeah, that was, I mean, just to keep it short, that was the time when I was like, oh, I should have stayed in India. And but then if I look back to that phase of mine, I would say I'm glad that I cope up with that and I moved on and learned a lot of the things along the way. So yeah.
Yes, yes, actually. Thank you. It's almost a similar journey. Because we are immigrants. Just one last question, just adding to the two questions together. Have you ever used any services? And when you see your followers as such, do they go through the same journey? Have you ever suggested your followers to look into the mental health services for them to take those services?
Right. So to be honest, I have never ever used any such services. And the big reason for that is that a lot of people are not very aware of that. I mean, I myself, when I came to Canada, there is nothing that they will tell you, okay, here are malls that you can go to shop, here are activities that you can go to,
Yes.
kind of spend your time with friends. But when it comes to mental health services, there wasn't any much talk. Even I was fortunate enough to be a part of a Seneca College team. So Seneca College was very helpful when it comes to mental health things. But the services that are being given to us by government or any other organizations were not mentioned, so I wasn't very aware. And when it comes to other people, yes, I was a kind of a guy, I always thought that there might be something, but I didn't search enough that there might be services that will be helpful for students. I knew that international students are a little bit different from the domestic students, because a lot of services that are provided to the domestic students, as mentioned by few of the speakers before me, that they are available to domestic students. But it is a great thing that Canadian government is trying for the international students as well. So I would love to know and let other know that there are services. It's just like you need to know and action on it. So everybody is there to help, I would say, to all the immigrants who come. It's just like you have to take the first step, because nobody will be ever able to sense that you are having mental issues. And a lot of times we see that people are really doing good, and then the next day they suicide, right? Because we didn't know, even though they
Yes.
were our friends, that what they were going through. So it's always the first time that you have to ask and see that yes, I need help, and if there are services available, go for it.
For sure. A very important point you have addressed. We'll work together on this. I'll make sure that we work on some projects so that you'll be able to share this to your all the followers. Thank you so much, Akshit. Just if you have any comment about your secret recipe for success as such, how are you able to cope up and continue to be consistent as such? Just short words on this.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I don't consider myself successful. I mean, in the world of social media, numbers are just matter of, I mean, just a game. So it's not like I would say having 200K people make me successful. But when it comes to, yes, I came so far just because I had a vision in mind that I have to do something apart from what I do on a daily life, and that's what kept me going, and also stay away from issues that usually arise in people when they come to different countries. So yeah, have a goal, have a vision, and then go for it. So that's what kept me going.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Akshit. That was beautiful. Thank you for
Yeah,
being here.
no
And
worries, pleasure is on this side of table.
because yes, my pleasure. Thank you. Mr. Sahil has to leave as such, so I would request him to because he's here to address a really important component. because they are the unsung hero for all the Canadians who are coming. Sorry, all the immigrants who are coming to Canada. The immigration consultant or the unsung heroes. We look to them to provide the all the policies as such. I would apologize. I would request Ritika to just bear with me for a couple more minutes. I apologize for the shift on the agenda as such. Sahib sir, over to you, please. You're muted, Sahib. You're muted, Sahib. We can't hear you.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. Uh, and thanks, Sid, for this opportunity to be a part of this group. And, I'm glad that you're offering such services. And, international students, because I've been working very close with international students by profession. And in fact, my own younger brother is an international student at the moment. So I've been very close to this community by profession and personally. And I believe, the kind of agenda that you guys are focusing on is really important. And, that's going to be an important part of the future, building future for Canada. So that's great. So, in terms of, important things for today, just like Said mentioned that, Bill C-19 is something that he wanted me to shed some light on, and I personally think that even beyond Bill C-19, it is extremely important for international students to have a broad pathway to their permanent residency in life, because essentially getting towards that permanent residency builds up to, I would say, a big chunk of stress to any immigrant's life here in Canada. So, I mean, if you walk into a classroom or if you walk into a casual conversation at home, you would see, almost all of the international students thinking and pondering and figuring out ways how to become a permanent resident, right? So, I believe once this part is taken out, that really takes away a lot of stress out of an international student's life. Guys, all I can say is there are two things for international students, because right now biggest community of international students in Canada is majorly from two countries. One is from China and the other one is from India. India happens to be the largest. So since India is over 40% till date, and China is also closer to that. So I think students coming in the younger ages of life, that is right after class 12, um, they are at the highest risk of getting the maximum stress, because by virtue of what they've attained in terms of education from India. For all of those students, looking at provincial nominations is going to be extremely important. And this trend of provincial nominations, it keeps on changing. So at one point in time, Ontario used to be good, then came British Columbia, then that was good, then came Alberta, then came Manitoba. This is a trend that keeps on shifting. Right now, if you ask me, I would say the Atlantic provinces and just a rural program in Alberta happens to be the lucrative option for students with plus twos. For anybody else who has a degree from India or abroad, and then even 1 year of education experience, for that person, even Ontario could prove to be beneficial with the right experience and the right knock code. So it's very customized, but by and large, I can comfortably say that Atlantic provinces happen to be the most lucrative options by in an all-rounded manner. And for anybody having a little more education or a little more experience overseas, for you things can get a little more rolled over differently to different provinces. Another thing that has been making rounds on social media is Bill C-19, which by far nobody knows. Everybody wants to know when is it happening, what is happening in it. So let me just break it down, in very crude day-to-day understanding. Bill C-19 basically means, the target of the immigration department behind Bill C-19 in a very rudimentary language is that they want to create basic groups of candidates, and they want to target these groups specifically. Now, they could make these groups based on age, kind of experience, country that they're living in, kind of experience, country experience, could be anything, right? Kind of education. So, say for example, if we look at an IT guy, okay, so for example, an IT guy, if the person has Canadian experience, he may belong to Group A. If the person does not have Canadian experience, he could belong to Group B. Now, what Canada would say is that for Group A, the cutoff is sitting at, say, for example, 290. For Group B, the same guy, but a different country's experience, the cutoff could be sitting at 430. Okay, so they want to create these groupings. What are these groupings going to look like? Now, this was a very, basic understanding. These groupings could vary based by, education and knock code to start with, and could go more. Okay, so truck drivers, healthcare professionals in one group, for example, like IT guys and ops guys in one group, could be anything. We don't know what these groupings are. We will get to know shortly. Right now the debates are already starting happening. There are public consultations happening while we talk. So the immigration minister is reaching out to communities. So this is ongoing. We will get more updates shortly. For sure I will be sharing more details on the YouTube channel. But Bill C-19, all I can say to summarize Bill C-19 is that whatever it may be for people outside Canada, for international students it's going to be a blessing. Okay, because we are very fortunate and we are very hopeful that they will have a special place for people with Canadian education and people with Canadian experience. So right, you can expect some good news coming this summer.
Thank you so much. And as you said, you have been very consistent for 4 to 5 years through everything. As such, I have seen your initial videos also. So thank you for being here and be enlightening us on this platform. Thank you so much, sir.
Great.
Thank you
All
for
the
being
best.
here. Yes, thank you. Now, just a last couple of speakers. Now we have Ritika. She's a star, rock star. She started her non-profit organization when she was 21. Okay, she started a redefined, where she is redefining the education across globally. She has received a lot of awards. She won a Business Leadership Award in 2022 and also Indian Achiever Award. So she has been outspoken, so that people understand that it's not just the education. We have to think outside the box, and also she also focus on uplifting and motivating the youngsters also. Over to you, Ritika. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the introduction. I think whenever someone else introduces you, you kind of realize, okay, I'm not that bad. But no, thank you so much for having me, because I think this is definitely an important topic to talk about, and it's something I've personally experienced, seen a lot of people go through it. Because I think through my experience, I think in the last 2 years, I've worked with more than 1,000 of students, and I've realized this to be something consistent. But as someone had mentioned before, awareness definitely tends to be lacking. So I think the topic I actually wanted to touch on today was the idea of like imposter syndrome. The reason being because I think anything everyone mentioned, whether it be, the fear of getting rejected from a job, not getting a job in the first place, not being able to seek help in the first place, all of that comes down to imposter syndrome, which then ties into your inability to advocate for yourself. And for those who may be new to that term, it's basically you questioning your abilities and feeling like you do not have what it takes to put yourself out there. And, even I think like Barinder, you mentioned about the job aspect, not being able to land those jobs. And a big component of it becomes is because the North American job market is purely based on the idea of self-advocacy. You need to network as much as possible. It's not just going online, submitting resume and cover letter and you're done. And I think that networking takes a lot out of you. And I've met so many students who are comfortable doing more of the technical side of things. They're comfortable doing more of the research, the written aspect, but they're not comfortable putting themselves out there. And whenever I talk to them, they'll always undersell themselves. Even when it comes to coffee chats, when I have a coffee chat with, let's say, someone who's local from here versus someone who's international, I realize the difference in the confidence they bring to the table. There's someone who's from international, let's say specifically like from India as well. They will have a tendency to be like, only if you think I'm capable, please give me this opportunity, or, I'm fine with what I have. I've seen so many people coming from India, even at Deloitte and other firms, to be honest, where they have been managers back home, for 2-3 years. But when they come here, because the employer says, hey, you don't have Canadian relevant experience, they end up joining as like BAs, like the initial roles, just puts them literally 5 years behind. That's crazy. And I was like, how can that be acceptable by anyone? Negotiate your salaries, negotiate for yourself. And I think the reason I also bring up this topic is not just because it's related to so many things, but this in turn ties on to stress, depression that we were talking about, because, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, I cannot get this. Because the more you talk to yourself in a negative manner, you are going to do those things and, reinforce those things for yourself. And as you keep reinforcing, you're going to go down those potholes, which you don't want to go down under. So I think that aspect. And then I know a lot of people who just start with that self-questioning, and that self-questioning over time turns into that permanent low self-confidence and low self-esteem, which then leads to you underselling yourself, giving into smaller opportunities just for the sake of certain short-term goals. A big one being financial goals. A lot of people come to Canada, they realize, oh my God, it's expensive. And they're like, okay, how do I earn money the fastest way? And obviously, what's the fastest way to earn money? Work in the hospitality industry. A lot of us do it. Even I did it while I was in university because it seemed to be the faster. It paid my bills great. But what happens is when you even start working in such environments, you kind of get used to this idea that this is what I'm limited to. But I think like for me, it's been meant to help students realize that, hey, it doesn't matter even if you're from India, China, or anywhere. You have the capability to even dream of not just working at a company, but starting something of your own, right? Why do you have to dream of just having a stable job? A lot of us idealize a stable job, but doesn't mean that is the ideal, right? Do your startup. It's fine if you fail, get back right up. So I think those are important things to keep in mind, because I see so many students start with part-time jobs and those part-time jobs become their full-time jobs. And unfortunately, no one's there to give them a wake-up call that, hey, you're capable of doing more. And this is not to say one job is better or lesser than something else. But I mean is when like even Parinder mentioned, he came with a healthcare background. But the current circumstances forced him to give himself into jobs that he was a lot more capable for. But that should not be the scenario. And I think is like once you start doing those jobs, you get so used to, or you get so comfortable being where you are, and the seniors above you tell you, hey, this is where you belong, this is where you're doing well, this is the way to get PR. And I think PR, the focus on PR at times is limiting. I think so. When I came to Canada, my goal was never I want to get a PR. I still haven't applied, which is also wrong. Maybe I should balance it out. But what I mean to say is my goal was if I'm getting the opportunity to come abroad, I'm making most use of it in terms of getting experiences that I wouldn't get back home. I want to work at the topmost companies. I want to start my own startup and organization, I want to become the boss girl kind of thing instead of really focusing on the PR. Because if you are doing great professionally, I'm
Won't,
sure Canada would love to give you a PR and would love to have you if you're adding to the economy and if you're a great employee or a great founder in whatever space you're in. So one request I would have to all like students or anyone who's an immigrant is I understand the legalities can be stressful. But if you honestly just follow like your passions and take time to figure out what you really want to do, you will get much better returns, and hopefully then not have to suffer from stress, depression and other things. And already in Canada we get sun very less, so seasonal depression is already
yes.
huge. So you don't want to worsen the case for yourself. So I think best way to survive is balance things out. Know that okay, long term I cannot be in a job which does not satisfy me personally and professionally, because yes, you are earning the money in the moment, but guess what, your long term goals are being sacrificed, and you don't want to do that because that's going to lead to dissatisfaction in your old age, and you're going to think back being like, oh, I wish I just did this and that, and you don't want regret and guilt to be on you. So yeah, I would say that. I don't know if I touched much on the mental health aspect, but I think it just ties a lot
You
into
did.
it, which is why I thought I mentioned it.
Thank you, Ritika. That was really beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm looking forward to do a lot more event with great people like you guys. Now at the end, she's my friend. I took her for granted today. I moved her at the end, and I would request you guys to be stay put for next couple of minutes. She is a Michelle Bancroft. She is one of the people who always motivate the students. She treats the students like a Canadian. Okay, she don't just treat them like, okay, you just here for queer. She never shows that mentality at all. She is a health promotion specialist. Even the students they get scared to be in her class, but at the end of the day, the learning is humongous while she is being there. thank you. She's doing a lot of. She's the founder of Wellness right now. She does a lot of activities for the companies or for the hospitals as such. So over to you, Michelle. I apologize. Thank you for here, being here.
Hi, nice to see everyone. Don't worry, I'll be quite quick. And thank you so much for those kind words, Zaid. Just like the rest of you here, it's great to and shocking sometimes to hear someone introduce you. I really want to build a little bit on Ritika, the wonderful speaker that was just before me. I think really what you were saying about imposter syndrome and taking our own greatness, our own abilities for granted can really be a huge disadvantage. And I think one of the things that really came to my mind when I was thinking about what to say here was that whole meme of putting your own oxygen mask on first before you give oxygen to someone else. And I think everyone in healthcare can be guilty of this, of helping your patients and helping other people before helping yourself. And so I think it's important for international students and everybody wanting to work or working in healthcare to also acknowledge how to take care of themselves. And so I think that is something that's really important. And when we talk about health promotion and we talk about mental health and mental well-being, we often have to look and reflect on ourselves first and take that step to see what we can do for ourselves first. So that's a lot of what I talk to people about, and something that I'm a big believer in. I know I don't have a lot of time, but I hope that even this will spark everyone here on the call to at least just take a few deep breaths at the end of this. Think about your own health and well-being, how to put your oxygen mask on, because you're all definitely thinking about how to help others, which is incredible, but also remember how to help yourself as well. So that's my little quick bit, and I'll throw it right back to you, Said.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you. And with that, I don't think so. I will be covering my topic. I'm going to make at least a short video in LinkedIn, and I will share the work as a project as such, so that I can give it to you all, so that you can someone else about what are the services available. With that, I invite Tohib Inde. He's a bachelor's of biomedical science. He's a Canadian, and he's a future doctor. He is a health promotion specialist at Oneness Community Foundation. Over to you, Tohib.
Yeah, take. Hold on 1 second. Let me put on my camera. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dr. Said, for the introduction, and thanks so much for being the moderator of today. It's been so interesting learning about mental health from professionals today and hearing such motivative stories, because I feel motivated. Yeah, and on behalf of our Oneness Community Foundation, I would like to to use this medium to express our gratitude to all the amiable speakers who share their valuable insights on immigrant mental health as we celebrate the Mental Health Week in Canada. And as part of the mission of Oneness Community Foundation, we will continue to spread awareness for mental health in Canada, especially addressing the underserved community where there is a limitation to access healthcare and mental health support. Yeah, thanks so much everyone for coming, and that's the end of the podcast, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Tahir. So thank you everyone for being here. I will reach out to each and every one of you to get the approval for me to share this session in LinkedIn. If it's already shared it, for some reason many couldn't join, and I couldn't focus on that because single man, I'm handling these things. So yeah, I'll reach out to you guys with your approval. I can post it on the LinkedIn. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you. God bless you guys. Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Akshit. Thank you. Thank you, Glancy.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
Brenda.
everyone.